This is just a very quick video on K2 live process migration. So K2 supports live process migration, so that is where you have a process that is in flight running on a particular version and you can move it to a new version or even to an older version if you want to. It's built on an API, so let's bring up the example over here. So this is in our help documentation. There's some information here that talks about the actual live instance migration, the classes that you take advantage of, and a number of examples about how you actually take advantage of that. It also includes some samples and a number of different elements that sit inside there, as well as important notes and suggestions of how you take advantage of that. So it is code-based, which does mean that you can programmatically execute it. That is quite important because you might need to write some code to run through maybe a couple hundred processes, work out what the current stage of the process is, and then be able to determine some business logic to whether that one should be upgraded, where it should go in the new process, if anything needs to change accordingly. You know, there's all that sort of stuff that comes into it, because moving from one process to another process is not always straightforward. Your new process might not have certain activities, or certain business logic might have changed, or you might need it to go back to a previous step to re-execute because of some business logic changes that have taken place as well. And the process would never know that out of the box. So effectively, you need a programming interface that you can go in and add that. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to go and write code every time you want to be able to do that. There are a number of samples. There's samples inside here that you can take advantage of, as well as samples that have already been built on the K2 community side. And I'll show you a couple examples right now. So the first one I want to show you here is this is a little tool called the Live Instance Migration Utility, and there's a few of these tools that are out there. I quite like this one. It's nice and straightforward. These are different processes that I currently have running on my environment. So if I go and choose my Kappa processes, I can get the active instances. These are all the processes that are running on the environment, and I can see what stages they're currently at and what versions they're currently running on. So I can see there's a couple running on version 7 and a couple running on version 8. What I can do is I can go and say, well, I actually want these two that are currently in the review stage on process 7. I want to get the number of new versions. So there's all the versions. So I want to move those to process version 8. Let me get all the activities that are on version 8. And what it does is it brings me back. So I could go and say now, move these two that are in the review stage on process version 7, roll the way back to the start and go and execute that. And that'll take these two back to the start and restart those. Or I could say, move them to the approval stage, or I could say redirect them to the current activity. What that means is they will move to version 8, but stay on the review stage and re-execute that review activity. Another option that you have is don't redirect, so they'll upgrade to the new version, and then they won't do anything. And that's quite useful for if you've got a process that's currently in error, and you've fixed a bug or something in the newer version, and you don't want to re-execute the review, so you can move it to the later version and just execute the error repair, and it'll continue where it left off without going and re-executing any activities that have already taken place. So just to show an example of that, I'll do the do not redirect, so it'll stay on the review stage, and I'm just going to upgrade those from version 7 to version 8. So let's go ahead and do that, and there we go. So those two have now upgraded to the latest version. All right, so that's one example. This is a sample on our K2 Underground, so all the source code is available to how this works. You can even do, I've even seen more advanced ones where they actually compare what's changed between the two versions before you actually upgrade. So there are those sort of tools. Here's another example. This is an example built using K2 over here. So this is one that's web-based. It's built on top of K2 Smart Forms. Again, I can go and find a particular process that's running. So for example, this one over here. I can see the details of the workflow, a visualization of where it currently is, who's been assigned tasks, activities that have taken place, key events that have happened. You can see there's an error repair on this one, and then I can go to the migration. And I can say, well, let's go and migrate this one to version 7, move it back to the review activity, perhaps even go and change some business logic and some business tools inside here. So maybe there's certain process data fields that might need to be updated and changed when I go and move this, and that might be part of what needs to take place for moving it to a new version. Otherwise, I can just hit the migrate tool. So that's another example. This example itself is actually built on top of K2 Smart Forms. It is available for you as a sample. You can go and actually modify it and make it your own as well, and there's a number of smart objects that are available for it as well. The other option as well is some third-party partners of ours have built tooling around the live process migration and other parts of K2. This is one example where they've actually got a little interface that shows you exactly what things have changed inside of it and gives you a way of being able to compare before going in and actually upgrading and migrating versions across. So again, because it's built on top of a .NET API, it gives you a host of possibilities around managing in-flight process changes. Thank you very much.